Ground. I'm Elizabeth. I have 10 years of experience politically across the Atlantic. I am posting this after the first day of the invasion of Ukraine, so I want to take a moment to acknowledge the horrors that the people in Ukraine are facing. I know I have very close friends who are from Ukraine, who have family and friends there. I have a few extra rooms in my place and a couple of extra mattresses. So if you make it out of the Ukraine and just are looking for a place to stay, I'm in Germany. If you make it this far, please come find me. Into some things that have been happening. I got a response from my previous video from somebody in Russia telling me that I was somehow protecting my country's interests. I live in Germany, so I want to be clear that I have many friends from the Ukraine going back several years. Um, while I have ties and I am in close communication with the National Security Advisor of the Biden administration, I am telling them my opinions, not the other way around. I'm not representing U.S. interests. For me, the U.S. and the Biden administration is a tool, and I feed them my information from a resident of Europe with many friends from the Ukraine, and as a resident of Germany and somebody who is watching the German government. So that's my perspective, just to be clear. So I did have a response to my previous video. I think everyone at this point is observing that Putin is starting to crack. And people in Ukraine said he must have been kind of off his rocker. And I think, as I mentioned previously, in a very desperate moment. He has not led his country down a prosperous path. And the country has plateaued. Russia has plateaued. It's not making as much money as his backers would like, and he's trying to prove something. So he seems to be very desperate. He seems to be kind of showing his cracks in the way he's overreacting to events. I'll get into some examples today. So first of all, I want to say to the people in Russia, I see you. I know that this person who responded to me and was claiming all of these stories, narratives about how the NATO is the aggressor. And I've covered it many times that NATO has never posed any aggression toward Russia. NATO was always formed as a defense alliance, as after Stalin and Hitler had their pact following the First World War, they divided up Eastern Europe. They divided up which territories Germany would claim and which territories Russia would claim. Then Russia positioned itself very well at the end of World War II to be on the victor side and to be able to claim all of that territory for himself, including part of Germany. So let's just be clear that that's what Putin is aspiring to, is that going back 100 years. Prior to 100 years, yes, the Russian Empire always was a connection between Minsk, Kiev, and Moscow. He made some false claims this week that somehow Ukraine was a colony of Russia. Ukraine was founded Kiev was founded well before Moscow. Even Minsk was founded well before Moscow and St. Petersburg. So Minsk and Kiev are much older cities. Moscow, at the time that Kiev had monasteries and major structures being built, Moscow was still a small hunter and gatherer community. So there were people inhabiting that, but it was not a major metropolitan area until much later. So let's just point out that the Rus cultural centers start in Kiev and Minsk, not St. Petersburg and Moscow. So if you were to say that perhaps Russia is a colony of Ukraine, might be a more accurate depiction of history. So Putin tried to rewrite history this week. I wanted to say we see all of the young people in Moscow protesting this war. And I've seen that there's a very large divide generationally in Russia, where the older generations are very much Mother Russia, um, and the younger generations want to be part of the rest of the world. And so it's not unlike in the UK and the US, where we have huge generational divides in some of these elections, like Brexit, like Trump. There's a huge generational divide between some of the more nationalistic ideologies that sink in, older people who are more prone to fear, more prone to being manipulated by fear, and more prone to being very much more conservative and wanting to hold on to nostalgia and the old ways. So we see the young people in Moscow, we see the young people in Russia, we see that you're risking your lives under a dictatorship to protest this war. I have also seen that the morale in the Russian army is very low. And my heart goes out to the people of Russia who are kind of forced into this dictatorship driven direction that's very, I don't know how to encapsulate it. He seems desperate, he's arrogant, he has a lot of ego behind all of these decisions, he's very reactive. So these don't seem to be well thought, they are well planned, but they don't seem to be well thought out, logical decisions he's making at this point. And we do feel for the people of Russia who are being led in this direction. That said, young people, put the decision in your hands, take control. If you've got friends in the military, and I would say to NATO, offer these people clemency. If they just go to Poland or Romania and don't want to be part of this invasion, that it's clear many people in Russia don't believe this is a justified war, don't believe this is a justified invasion, can see through the bullshit of all of this narrative Putin has been building this week. Walk away from it. Walk away. Go to Poland. Go to Romania. Don't be part of his war crimes. Don't be implicated in his war crimes. You know, here in Germany, the whole generation followed Hitler to great demise for their own selves. You can walk away. You do have a choice. It may not seem like it, but Poland has opened up their arms and their borders to anyone seeking refuge. And I think that that should be extended to members of the Russian army who don't want to be part of this. And if you're a younger generation and you have friends and family in the Russian army, tell them they have the option to walk away from it. It doesn't seem like this is going to get better. Russia in the first day, has not had a tremendous amount of success. Of course, this is going to be a protracted conflict. This is the first day, and nothing is going to be decided in the first day. However, we have seen incredible motivation on the side of Ukraine. And last night, I went to bed praying for the people in Ukraine who are protecting your home. So you know people around the world are praying for you. I know that there are many members of Ukraine trying to flee, trying to get across the border to Poland. Many citizens are hunkered down, sheltering in the metro stations. I hope that somehow humanitarian aid will be able to provide them food and water while they are sheltering in place. You have people around the world supporting you. I want to reiterate that today, that we all see you, we all hear you, and we're praying for your success. Going back to Putin's decision-making prowess, I'm going to say that with my tongue in my cheek, because Sweden and Finland have said, that's it, we're joining NATO. And my father said, Sweden, Finland, and Ukraine used to be neutral. And Putin is the one forcing everybody's hands. where there won't be any neutrality anymore. Putin didn't want NATO to encroach on his boundaries, but so far Sweden and Finland have not joined NATO. They have been totally neutral, but he is forcing their hands by his aggression, by his demonstration that he will not hold back, that he has no restraint or self-control, that he does have this madness, just this willingness to go try to take what he wants. Finland and Sweden they don't have a choice in the matter. He is creating the polarization where countries will either have to decide to be with NATO or to be with Russia. And this is what really demonstrates that we're dealing with somebody who is cracking, he is trying to prove himself, he's very desperate. He threatened war on Finland. So if you've been watching my videos, I've covered that we recognize he wanted the corner of Ukraine, but he couldn't take part of Ukraine because the rest of Ukraine would join NATO. So he's going in full hog. He's trying to take the whole country. It's not going his way. As I said, this is going to turn into a civil war, which he doesn't like civil wars. So he's already in over his head in Ukraine. And now he wants to take on Finland at the same time. So yes, I would say Finland, go for it. Because we know what happened the last time Russia tried to invade Finland. Finland does not take shit from Russia. Finland does not particularly like having Russia as a neighbor. So if we want anybody to kind of divert military forces from Ukraine to make Putin spread himself too thin, absolutely. Putin trying to declare war on Finland at the same time is what we want to see, the kind of crazy, stupid moves we want to see him making. So, brilliant. I want to address for a moment all of the crazy shenanigans and antics going on in the U.S. politics. It's really bananas. I mean, obviously Tucker Carlson is off his rocker. If you follow me on Twitter, you know that already. And it's really crazy that 15% of GOP voters believe Putin, but only 10% believe Biden. And we're seeing this play out where everybody it started out saying, well, if Trump were president, this wouldn't have happened. Well, we all know Trump tried to back out of NATO. Trump was going to try to withdraw the U.S. from NATO. And that's exactly what... Then Putin would have done this and there would have been no presence from the U.S. standing his way. Once they realized this, and plus people were saying, well, Trump didn't start a war. Well, Trump almost started a war in Iran. He killed the general there. Iran did retaliate and it was going to escalate, except that the cooler heads in the Pentagon did not respond. It could have escalated. Trump wanted it to escalate. It is only because of the heads of the military in the U.S. that they called off any further escalation. But Trump was very close to starting war with Iran. And it was only because generals held him back that did not happen. So anyone saying that Trump never started a war is full of shit. And as I said, if Trump had withdrawn from NATO, Trump would absolutely not be standing up to Putin. And so it's crazy for these people to say, well, of course Trump would do a better job when, thank God, he got voted out. And there's all hypothetical bullshit anyway. As I said, my father's conservative and he thinks this administration has done an excellent job responding to a difficult situation. My father was part of a NATO fleet while he was on the admiral's staff. So he has sailed with warships from Germany, Netherlands, and Portugal before as part of NATO fleets. So he has a lot of insight into what's happening currently with NATO. He thinks Sweden and Finland should have joined NATO a long time ago, but as I said, they were always neutral. So I think it will be interesting to see if Biden can win this war, particularly if he can win this war without military force. How many excuses MAGA will be making about it? Yeah, it's just like, according to them, nothing Biden can do is right. Um, but the former president, called Putin a genius for this. I feel like it's totally in keeping, because Randy Rainbow, I'll link that below, had this song about the former president calling himself a very stable genius. And then he's not stable. He's clearly mentally cracked. He's calling Putin a genius. So I feel like Randy Rainbow needs to just do a reprise of the very stable genius comment that the former president is making about Putin now, because Putin is also showing mental cracks. So yeah, that whole stable genius is coming back around. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Serious moment. I do want to link below how you can support Ukraine, where you can get viable news. This is from the Ukraine government. So if you do want information, you want to stay abreast of the situation, you want to help people on the ground, I will link that below where you can find those links. And do want to give a shout out to some of the heroics. I know that on Snake Island there were a group of a small Ukrainian military post. All of those people died, but had something to say to Russia before they did, and that will be remembered, I'm sure, by people in Ukraine. We had the video today posted by the president, and there was also another video telling Russia to welcome to hell. So I think that Ukraine has sent a strong message to Russia, trying to come in and take away their independence, that they can go to hell. Well, all we can say, Ukraine, is give them hell. Until next time, thank you for joining me.